Hello, everyone. I'm Peyton,
I'm Sam.
and this is Uncontrolled Population. Today is Thursday, January 29th, and it is our second episode.
Dude, episode number 2.
Woo!
Let's go. Today's episode is going to be all about dun dun dun, the patriarchy.
Boo.
Boo. So I'm going to hand it over to Peyton so we can get some current events. And then I have a little current event of my own that I would like to add.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. So, again, it's always a crazy week because we live in America.
Amen.
So basically last week, or well, I guess now 2 weeks ago, we talked about this lady named Nicole that was shot by ICE and obviously publicly executed. And unfortunately, we had another incident as well. His name is Jeffrey Preddy, and he was 37 years old, a Minneapolis resident. And on 9 a.m., January 24th, he was shot by ICE officers, or should I say the, new Nazi regime.
Mm-hmm.
And so basically what happened was he is an ICU nurse, also a veteran. And he obviously helps a lot of people and stuff. So it seems like it's kind of in his nature, but ICE, I don't even want to call them honestly like federal agents, like basically the Proud Boys.
Yeah.
At this point.
Mm-hmm.
He did have a gun. Weird thing though, the NRA sided with Alex Preddy because he was a lawful abiding citizen. He had a conceal and carry and everything. He did not pull the gun out at all. He had his cell phone in one hand and was intervening because ICE was basically like targeting this woman. And so he kind of jumped in. I think she was getting like pepper sprayed. He jumped in and tried to like help her. And so they obviously then ended up targeting him. They, a bunch of them, I think there was like 6 guys or something, grabbed him and basically pulled him on the ground. They got his weapon. So he did not have his weapon at this point. One officer, he literally was face down, shot him, and then proceeded to shoot him 3 more times, basically like execution style. And yeah, so obviously like Minnesota is continuously outraged and like super upset at what's going on. So they've been protesting for like a while now about what's going on. And the last one of them, they had like over 25,000 people, I think. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, they're really out in the streets. And I mean, it's cold, but again,
it was like -7 degrees at one point, and they were still protesting, which is hell yeah.
No, literally.
Like, we need more of that.
No, we do, honestly. And Tim Walz has been obviously giving speeches. I think it was the police chief of Minneapolis came out and was talking about how now his police officers off duty that are, people of color are getting harassed by ICE and have gotten approached by ICE and stuff, which again, we knew was going to happen because what you allow your government to do to others, eventually they're going to do to you. So all these people that thought, okay, well, I'm a law-abiding citizen. I'm from here. It's never going to happen to me.
Don't matter.
It doesn't matter. It's now happening to everyone. But I feel like there's a lot of people speaking out again about it, but I will say I think it's because now it's finally a white guy where it's like it's made it to the top of the quote unquote food chain. But again, this has been happening for ever with people of color, women. Like we've seen this over and over again. So actually they did have Minnesota's National Guard kind of come out to actually help the citizens of Minneapolis and stuff, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, there was like videos of them like giving out hot chocolate and stuff. So it's just kind of a turn of events where it was like, okay, we were so against them. And now it's like, it's gotten so bad to the point where like, we're slowly getting people on our side, which honestly, I'm happy to see. But yeah, it's just it keeps getting worse. It keeps getting more fascist. But But yeah, so we just all gotta, again, stay safe. And I would like to, there is a sad update. If anyone follows Miss Shirley on TikTok, she is this amazing woman that she went through a lot of hard times. Her son had passed and stuff. She was homeless at one point. Actually started beauty in the streets, and she started with giving haircuts and color and, you know, just taking care of some homeless communities, and you know, then started her own, I think it's kind of like a foundation, basically helping homeless people get like food. She's constantly making all this you know, even getting people clothes, resources, really beautiful person, but unfortunately she did pass away yesterday. Yeah, so I've never been that sad for people. Obviously, I don't know, but that one really hurt. I cried a little bit.
What happened? Do we know that?
No, they don't know yet. Some people were suspecting foul play, but there's no confirmations or evidence yet.
Damn.
But yeah, so the world lost an angel. So I just wanted to
another one.
I know, and she was just so, and she would talk to people, you know what I mean, just like they're a human being, and she didn't make anyone feel othered or less than. And so yeah, now there's kind of a couple people on TikTok that are like, okay, in Miss Shirley's name, like, let's get out there and kind of help our community. So if that, you know, makes people want to get out, even if you just buy like someone on the side of the road that's asking for money, like some food or something, let's just kind of do what we can.
Yeah, do what we can. That's like the most important thing. Like that saying I keep bringing back, think globally, act locally.
Yes.
It doesn't matter, you know, if you're out there on the streets with a picket sign saying fuck Trump, or if you're just passing out gas masks or baby wipes, or something simple where, you know, you are supporting, or just being kind to the person that comes across your register when they're checking out, you know, and like asking, hey, how's your day going?
Right.
Maybe just a little bit more effort than usual. That also goes like a long way, because you don't know what these people are going through.
Right.
You don't know what the person across the street from you is going through. You don't know what your neighbor is going through. And a little bit of kindness does go a long way. So for anybody that's also, you know, like protesting is not for everybody. As much as I would love for people to be in the streets and on the front lines, quote unquote, it's scary.
Yeah.
And, you know, like people have jobs that they are afraid to lose, and you know, they're the breadwinners of their family.
Yeah, people are living paycheck to paycheck, and so I think when you kind of make the notion of like everyone has to go out and do that, it's like we said, that's not realistic. Everyone has a job. Everyone can help if you just do one nice thing for your neighbor, or you know, shovel your elderly neighbor's driveway, or you know, just little things.
Just a little thing.
Yeah,
it goes a long way. And like we talked about last time, community is like the biggest thing. Segueing into my little current event, this is a great example of how community can go a long way, and that one person can really make a really big difference. In France, in Western France, there's a man named Michel Eprinchard. He inherited a large plot of land. It was weed-ridden, overgrown, and he didn't really know what to do with it. So he donated it to his childhood home. I'm not exactly sure where that is. It didn't say in the article. The article is from goodnewsnetwork.org. The author is Andy Corbley. I hope I said that right. And it was published on January 27th, 2026.
Okay.
The article is called Man Donates the Empty Field He Inherited to His Childhood Town on the Condition It Be Made into a Community Orchard, which we kind of talked about last time about community gardens. So he donated the field. The mayor accepted. So around 50 trees have already been planted by the community members, and about 50 more are expected to be planted this year. Andy, the author, said it will take about 4 years before the first harvest, but no one seems impatient. The project already fulfills its function to gather, excite, and return the land to common use.
Wow.
So even though, you know, I think that's really cool that he donated it to his like childhood hometown, one, because he's, you know, paying respects to where he came from and helping out his community there, but also who knows what this garden can do for other people in the community and how big that it could get. And I love what he said at the very end, which is returns it to a common use. Instead of it being overrun with weeds, they're trying to add more hedges. They're planning
Okay.
on adding like a fountain at some point.
Wow.
More trees, more bushes, and everybody seems excited about it too. So I thought that that was a cool little piece of good news. Like, just because things seem bleak right now doesn't mean
Yeah.
that it's bleak everywhere. There has to be a little bit of light in the darkness.
Right. No, honestly, I love that. And it's just cool to see that. I think in a time where we live, where it's so profit over people, it's really cool to see people kind of fight back against that notion of like, no, it should be people over profit.
Mm-hmm.
It
Yeah.
should be, because when you think about it, like obviously we talk about the patriarchy and,
Mm-hmm.
the matriarchy and what that could look like. It just kind of, we're turning it back to a more naturalistic way of, we are supposed to take care of each other. When you lift up the most vulnerable parts and people of your community, everyone seems to thrive.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's true.
yeah, just that's really cool that he, took that upon himself to do that.
I agree. But speaking of patriarchy, we're gonna segue a little bit into that. So do you want to go first?
Yeah, so as we know, we talk about how the patriarchy really does hurt everyone involved.
Mm-hmm.
It's a system that has been set in place for honestly probably thousands of years at this point.
Yeah.
If you compare it to like maybe astrologically, people say we're in the age of Capricorn. If and then we kind of are moving into the age of Aquarius, which is the more collective energy. So some people may think like patriarchal, that was like a age we were in, and now we're maybe heading more into a matriarchal community. But I do think obviously we have to, in tarot, people talk about it as a tower moment where you have to have everything crumble before you can build anew. And so, yeah, just as when I get really sad about what's going on, I always think about like maybe this is our um, time period that has to crumble so we can rebuild. I had a therapist that talked about, for instance, America, when it was like right after Trump got elected. And I remember being so upset and
Mm-hmm.
just like, I can't believe this happened. And he was like, you know what? Like when you have a society that is built on stolen land, killing people, killing animals, raping people, like, you know what I mean? The whole horrible shebang. Like it's like you can't really change that structure. You almost have to like get rid of it entirely and restart.
I mean, the foundation that we built this country on is absolutely that. I mean,
Yeah.
first off, we took that from the Native Americans,
Yep.
the rightful owners of this land who
Yep.
were here first,
Yep.
murdered the shit out of them,
Yep.
waged war, pledged our freaking famine onto them, just
Yep.
killed the masses. And that is what America is built off of. Not
Yeah.
only that, but like slavery, and not just African Americans, but also Asian Americans as
Yep.
well. And who knows what other races
I
and
mean, even we
ethnicities,
can talk about women being, you know what
especially
I mean?
women,
Yeah, like we
especially
were
women. That
fucked
was
for
we
centuries.
came here with the patriarchy already
Yeah.
established from Britain,
Yeah.
and absolutely, like, women were treated like property.
Yeah.
They weren't really given a voice. They were supposed to be out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
Really,
Seen but not
yeah,
heard.
seen but not heard. Like trophy wives. That's, I feel like, where that first started coming through, because they would just parade their women around
Yeah.
like trophies and try
Yeah.
to show them off like they're
Like
literally
I'm
like
the best
property.
because
Like
I
exactly,
have. Yeah.
exactly.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. And so when you kind of look at that, like you can kind of see like, well, when we dive deeper, like where did this come from? How does this happen? And I think a big avenue is religion. You know what I mean? I
Mhm.
think religion was used to kind of how do we control a mass amount of people easily? And it's like, oh, we almost give them a little hope, we give them a little freedom, but then still have them under the thumb of fear and being scared of others.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean?
How could you be more scared than eternal damnation as like
Right.
the punishment for being gay,
Right.
for speaking out against your prophet or
Right.
the church, basically,
Yeah.
which is who twisted it. Really quick, since we're going back to the very beginning, I
Mm-hmm.
want to chat just a little bit about where the term patriarchy comes from.
Perfect.
It's actually a Greek and Latin term, patri, meaning father, and Archy, I'm definitely butchering that, but that means govern or rule by. So when you put them together, the father that rules and governs over. So I mean the same thing with matriarchy, woman that rules over. And I thought that was just a that it goes that far back. It's not like I mean, if it goes that far back, then absolutely 100%. Even the Greeks and the Romans were also in like a patriarchal society as well. I mean, I really didn't do too much research on that. I granted, but I'm assuming so, just from like what I've seen, like the emperors.
Yeah.
You didn't see an empress. When have we ever seen like a Greek or Roman empress? Never. It was always an emperor.
Yeah. And I will say too, like, theoretically, I feel like sometimes we're missing a lot of the story because on average, they say we only know about 5% of women's history that's been recorded. So I always wonder how much women have contributed, but their stories were erased. They weren't told. They were altered to, fit a certain narrative because in the patriarchy, like we talk about American propaganda, but there really is patriarchal propaganda if you think about it, of like, oh, the nuclear family. And even when we talk about, which that's where, scary, it can go kind of down the alt-right pipeline. But when we see things about like, oh, the soft life, or like even things as saying, which a creator on TikTok talked about it, and it makes a lot of sense when we, even as women, are like, oh, men used to go to war, but it's like realistically, men would be traumatized, and they would be literally, they would traumatize communities, their selves would be traumatized, they'd come back, and then who did that care and whatever fall back on? Women. So it's like women were then in that caregiver role and constantly, trying to fix problems that they didn't create. Because as we know, we got here with the patriarchy because of systems that men put in place. So when you look at that and then, tie that into religion, it's just an easy way for them to do this to mass amounts of people. And I mean, it's in every religion that you see nowadays. Like, for instance, I love witches, as you can tell with my little witch painting.
Yeah.
But it's always been very interesting to me because the more I like read or learn about witches, it's really, they were, smart women that knew about medicine. They knew how to take care of their communities, lived off the land, or maybe had power, or maybe didn't succumb to the patriarchy. And so they were eventually, punished, killed, whatever the fact. Made an example of. But yeah, like even in downtown Salem, like this guy owned downtown Salem, was married. He passed away. The woman inherited it. And then they knew if they accused her of being a witch, she'd have to go to jail. All of downtown Salem was then basically sold off to whatever men wanted to buy it. And so it was just another way where the patriarchy created this system of power that then just inherently fucked over women and like, you know what I mean? So
didn't you also mention something about that with the Native Americans, how the Native American women would be basically like killed after marrying a white man so that the white man could take over and inherit the property?
Yeah. So actually there's the Killers of the Flower Moon. It's a movie. It won a bunch of like awards and stuff, but basically the Osage tribe, so actually Pioneer Woman, that fucking lady with the red hair that has all the cooking shit at Walmart, she is, I think, the 17th largest landowner, and it is Osage tribe land. So back in the day, Native Americans, specifically Osage Native Americans, had their land was on top of like oil and stuff like that. So they had a bunch of oil rights. So they were actually a very, very, very rich tribe. Probably like some of the richest people around in that time. So basically what these white men would do was they would marry into the Osage tribe, marry the Osage women, and they would inherit their land. And then a lot of the times they would like kill them, or even just obviously being married, like they inherited it and stuff. But they slowly did that over time to steal money and stuff away from that community. And so we've seen this time and time again of, how do people acquire land? Well, it's like, they take it, unfortunately, by whatever means necessary. And so.
And usually it's not people, it's men.
It's men. Yeah. Thank you, Sam.
You're welcome.
And so when we look at that, we can kind of see like how a society before colonization, what the Native American tribes looked like. Like a lot of people and creators I follow talked about how they were way more matriarchal. The women were the center almost of the community, just as far as like the leaders, the spiritual teachers, kind of deciding what, would happen and stuff. And so it went from that to when, the white people came over and colonized this land, it changed the whole dynamic of these power structures.
Mhm.
And eventually, obviously, we know patriarchy is more about like domination, taking control, taking power, money. So it, then got converted into that. And with that, it, like, if, for instance, there's a lot of tribes that are before colonization, whether that be like in South America or Mexico, or even, here, we're cool with, for instance, like trans people. Like they've always been here. They've always existed. But then after colonization, it was like deemed like bad and like
demonized.
demonized.
Yeah.
And so we've seen that time and time again. And
especially
even
paired with Christianity,
yes,
where like anybody that's not a straight man or a straight woman was damned to eternal hell and suffering and bullshit. Like they absolutely ousted like trans people in there too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They always go, and again, systems of power like that always go after the marginalized community because they know, again, that kind of the opposite. With a matriarchy, when you lift up the most vulnerable people, the whole society thrives. But on the opposite end, when you push down the most vulnerable people, the society suffers, but the few at the top get all the power. And it's, again, like by design.
It is. I mean, when I was researching like the patriarchy, it was all about men controlling, men dominating. And when they are in power, having one man be the main focal point. So when I was reading it, it basically said like when men are in points of leadership, one of their biggest downfalls is this ego that gets in the way and them like handing off work to other people and really just taking credit for the project succeeding and thinking that it's all on them because they were the one that's orchestrating it. It's also shown that like a lot of people in those communities feel like they have to what's what I'm looking for here. I'm so sorry. Be the best, be the biggest, show that they are and like dominate the room so that the people that do have like these really good points that are like valid and that would definitely help don't want to share it. And that brings it down even more. But I was also doing some research on the flip side of how women that are in power and when they're in a leadership role really focus on making sure that everybody feels like they're included, feels like everybody has a voice. Let me just read a couple of things really quick. Sorry, my notes are a little bit scattered. Power and leadership.
Real quick, while
Sure.
Sam looks for that, I just wanted to plug a resource real quick. So basically, shout out to my client. He sent it to me. He's been my client for a while, but basically right now to make change, we want to call our representatives, kind of do that kind of stuff. But obviously we all have jobs and it's hard. So basically there's this website. Oh my God. Website called 5calls.org. And so basically you give the website your zip code, town, and they will look up your representatives and senators with phone numbers to their office. And then they give you a script of what to say over the phone. And then you can leave a voicemail and it's way easier than we expected. This was a text from my client. So
that's a great way to
shout
like
out
just
to
set
him.
up. Yeah, have a set up way to like talk and make your voice heard.
Yeah. 100%. And then it's, easy and it's, straightforward. So shout out 5calls.org.
Also, would you mind mentioning the New York Times article too? Because that one actually like went over the steps that went in place.
Okay, yeah. So from where I gathered my info was from the NewYorkTimes.com. for Alex Preddy. But basically, if you look up his story and you go to New York Times, it gives literally step by step of
Step of what
everything
happened,
that
yeah.
happened, pictures, diagrams, because I really feel like they went over and above to try to show like what went on, so people can't twist the story. They can't act like it was this or that. So yeah, if you're a visual learner, they had a great walkthrough of exactly what happened. It was recorded. It was, yeah.
I definitely benefited from reading that article. I was very glad. So please do go and check that out.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to read a couple of things really quick that I got. Transformational leadership and empathy. Women lead with empathy. Women often use more collaborative, nurturing, and empathetic style, fostering team trust and psychological safety. I mean, that's great, because if everybody feels like their voice can be heard, or if they could pitch in, then you get more diverse thinking.
Yep.
And that actually might help solve this problem, or to help the company or whatever organization that woman is in charge of. There's also strong financial and operational results as well.
Okay.
Organizations with more women on top management often report better financial performances, lower debt to equity ratios, and higher employment engagement. They also enhance team collaboration. So it's a team effort. I 100% go for that. Teams with women in leadership often report higher collective intelligence and better, more inclusive decision making. And crisis management and long-term strategy. Women are often associated with better long-term planning, prudent risk management, and the ability to navigate uncertainty. In 1970, women held approximately 50% of the management roles in the United States.
Okay.
In 2020, 50 years later, women held approximately 40% of management roles in the US and 29% of senior management roles worldwide.
Wow.
And I got that information from sciencedirect.com. Studies on leadership career progression shows women may score higher than men in self-development, feedback used over time. And that I also got from advancedmanagementservices.com, or short for AMS Consulting. So 100% they focus more on like the collective, making sure that everybody feels included. And that makes more sense to me too, because it seems like that was the one thing that women like really needed back when in the, what was it, the 20s when they were protesting.
Yeah, this women's suffrage movement.
Yes. So I also did some research on that too, just a little tangent before I come back. The 19th Amendment, allowing women to vote, was passed on June 4th, 1919. And then it actually got signed in and started being enforced on August 20th, 1920.
Okay, and I would like to preface though, that was white women only. So like that's where it's kind of hard, where it's like, okay, we started getting, you know what I mean? But how we talk about the patriarchy, hold hands with white supremacy, and they kind of help each other out. So a lot of the women that were for women voting were white women for only white women voting. So actually, it wasn't until 1965 that they passed the Equal Voter Act, and like, so you couldn't get discriminated based on race, sex, religion, orientation. So that's when they finally, like, I guess it was in stone that everyone can vote.
Right.
But yeah, 1919 was, I guess, the start of it.
I mean,
we had to start somewhere. But
shaky starts. Even like back when our country just first got founded, it was completely different than what it was today. Completely different. And yet today it still exists where women of all color can vote, men of all color can vote. You know, I don't want to say exclusively, but I feel like so far the peak of this all inclusive thinking peaked with millennials.
Oh yeah.
Like they were the ones that pushed the hardest, that got these bills passed, and that really started to get into the mainstream media, this idea of like everybody. It's not just white, it's everybody that gets included. And that kind of thinking is something that, you know, we're here to try to bring back and to bring attention to the fact that it's not gone just because the stupid ass Trump regime is over here making everybody feel like they're supposed to lose hope and that all is lost. It's only lost if you believe it's lost.
Yeah. No, and honestly, that brings up a good point, because I feel like for so long, I feel like our trajectory was going up of like more people were like, okay, like we need to be inclusive. We need to think about others. We need to bring kind of heading towards that matriarchy of like, the more we include, the more we make it diverse, the better outcome we're going to have. But then unfortunately we had the fall with, it's like, again, the internet can be a really good thing, but it also can be a really bad thing because now we're seeing a rise of conservatism, the alt-right pipeline, seeing, again, patriarchy hurts everyone, seeing young men and young boys get down these very, very, very scary places on the internet that actively hate women so bad to the point where
tendencies that are spread by the internet, like by people that I'm not going to name because I'm not going to give them power on this fucking platform. But you know exactly who I'm talking about, that fucking bigot.
Yeah. So that's where it's like, again, we have to be, you know, aware of stuff because it's kind of, I don't know, I've been seeing this kind of trend on TikTok where at first it was like, oh, millennials are cringe and whatever. And then it was like, well, to be cringe is to be free. And at least millennials didn't have to be so concerned with like how things looked. And I feel like they were kind of the last generation that didn't have to be so self-aware of what they looked like because the internet was, you know, chat rooms and like it wasn't this focus on, like, we have such a hyper focus now on like an individual and like what things look like, and like watching younger Gen Z and Gen Alpha be so concerned about what things look like and
how
like
they look, how they present themselves on camera.
Like it's almost created this, like, I don't even know how to describe it, but they didn't go through an ugly, awkward phase. Like, and I feel like they kind of think they're, you know,
hot shit
better than other people. Like they know it all, but it's like
complex.
Yeah. And they don't realize how much people before them have like risked themselves to get where they're at. So it's kind of sad to see that it's like we're going down another like conservative pipeline, even with like you look at Ozempic and weight loss. And this was like the early 2000s kind of resurgencing of like eating disorders and like the trends of women's bodies. Because when you look at it every 10 years or so, it kind of changes between like thick and curvy, and you can do all this stuff to make you thick and curvy, which was BBLs, which by the way had like a 1 in 3,000 chance of like death and like fatality. Like it's a very high number for BBLs because it's like not a good surgery. It's a really, really, really hard recovery.
What is a BBL?
So basically it was like a Brazilian butt lift.
Oh.
And so, but people like take fat from other areas and put it in their butt and like do implants. And I mean, people are paying an exorbitant amount of money to create a body that looks, you know what I mean?
Like an hourglass.
Yep.
And dude, there are things on the internet that make me go, that has to be photoshopped, but it's like real, like insanely like what? Like, how was that possible? How are you not suffering from like health risks from everything being down there and nothing being up here?
I know.
Like, what, dude?
I know. And that goes, but then again, it goes back to the patriarchy and pushing these trends. Cause then, and we always see it with celebrities first, right? Like 10 years ago, it was like the Kardashians and like all these people of like having a certain body type, which was again stolen honestly from Black women. And then they, you know, colonized it and whatever and made this other look. But then again, we saw after everyone started getting all these surgeries to look like these famous people, they were like, well, we don't want to look like the commoners. So then they're getting all their BBLs removed, their implants removed. And then they're looking skinny. And then we saw the rise of Ozempic and like dieting pills and all this stuff to do it very easily. So we're now swinging back in the other way. But again, that usually aligns with fascism. And again, here we are.
Yeah, here we are with fascism right at our doorstep.
Yeah.
Like halfway in. The chain's about to fucking break. But yeah, that's so crazy that like they started sending this trend, and then once everybody else started to like look and act like them, then they removed it to go back to like the commoner. It's like that same thing of everybody's special, then nobody's special kind of thing. And like when it comes to celebrities, I just don't even pay attention. I really don't, because it's unnecessary for me. I don't pay attention to any of these trends or any of like who's hot or who's not or anything like that. It's
Sam's kind of off the internet. Like,
I'm
he
kind
does
of
not
off the
know the
internet.
trends. I have to like
No,
describe it to him.
I have my peace, and I am at peace with my peace, and nobody's gonna take that away from me.
Yeah, and honestly, it is true because like we'll be texting sometimes, and I'm like, yeah, I just saw this shit on TikTok. He's like, dude, you got to get off TikTok for the night. Like, cut the cameras. Like, no. But yeah, it is like it's
a
just
double-edged sword.
It is because you want to be you want to know what's going on. You want to be aware, but then at the same time, it's like, okay, if I got to get up and go to work tomorrow and make money, because again, if we all stop working, you know, everyone's pretty close to homelessness. So it's like we're kind of stuck in this horrible cycle as well. And so it's like, okay, mental health wise, I have to be good enough to get up to go to work. And then honestly, listen to my clients bitch about things that sometimes I don't feel like matters. And I'm over here like, oh my God, people are getting dragged out of their house and deported and in these detention centers, and you know, stories of hearing women be treated horrendously and raped and whatever in these detention centers, and, you know, knowing everything that's going on. And it's kind of hard to, you know, reel that back in, but sometimes you kind of have to.
And the guards are all men.
Yeah. No, yeah. They literally are. I have not seen a ton of women. I mean, I've seen it, but not a ton.
It's kind of ironic that the director of Homeland Security is a woman right now.
Oh God!
And you know, maybe they even did that on purpose.
Probably. Stupid Christy Gnomes is. I'm like, Christina Gnomes is a bird-legged hoe.
Fuck yeah!
But I hate that bitch. Honestly, she's the worst. Steph actually just showed me a video of her talking. She's literally pointing a gun up in the air at like the fucking agent next to her, and I'm like, this. And she's like talking about like, I think we're going to go do this. It's like, bitch, you don't even know what you're going to do, for one. But for two, you're holding a gun at someone's face. Like, okay.
Yeah. And that poor bastard's probably just like,
yeah,
trying not to flinch.
Honestly, he was a nice agent. So point it at his face and shoot him. So honestly, I don't know.
Yeah. They're taking out their own people out here too.
No, literally. So
speaking of going back to work, I want to chat a little bit about some of the negatives that come with the patriarchy and women in work too. Fortunately, there are quite a few, but I narrowed it down to just a handful of them. So one of them is this double bind and stereotypes of women. Women are often caught between being perceived as too soft and if collaborative too. Like if they're actually like trying to have everybody collaborate and work together lead with empathy, they're considered soft. Or if they're too aggressive, then if they're too aggressive when they're too assertive, then they get that stereotype as well. Even though men rarely get judged this way when they're too aggressive too. So it's a double standard.
Yeah.
Definitely a double standard. Something else called the glass cliff, which I was like, wait, that's an interesting word for it, but it also makes sense of why it's called that. Women are sometimes promoted to leadership roles during times of crisis on purpose so that they take the fall. That's so fucked.
Yeah.
A broken rung and a lack of mentorship. So because there's little women in leadership roles in the first place, it's hard for women to network in order to get to those leadership roles or to advance in the company in general. Women face fewer opportunities for promotion and often has less access to senior level networking or leadership in general. So that's fucked. And finally, increased scrutiny. So female leaders are often scrutinized more harshly than male counterparts and must demonstrate higher competence and be judged competence to be judged equally. Sometimes it leads to hovering or micromanaging, because if you get judged for every single little thing, then of course, like, you're going to do what you can in order to prevent that. But that also often comes off in terms of like micromanaging.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Well, and honestly, yeah. I mean, let's look at her fucking election. Like, Kamala Harris has worked in all three branches of the government. She's had a bunch of statistics and data on all the things she's done over the course of her career. But then you compare it to Trump, who literally had a fucking TV show, 7 bankruptcies, 34 felonies, so many accounts of sexual assault, rape allegations, He has so many fucking lawsuits against him from his workers. On top of now, he's been shitting his pants at fucking all these things and falling asleep and not understanding what's going on. And people still elected this man, quote unquote, because she wasn't qualified enough.
But if Kamala was in office and she did any
one
of these hundreds of things, she'd be scrutinized so much by the media, by people that are also working with her in the office. They're just looking for an excuse because...
Yep. She's a woman, and a black woman at that.
A black woman at that.
So that's where it's like, again, it's so fucking annoying that it's like women have to work 10 times as hard to get where men just get it handed to them because of the systems in place. And then even on top of that, because again, we're about intersectionality, black women have the least amount of opportunities and they have to work like 20 times as hard to get where they are. But then we look at people like Jasmine Crockett and it's like she knows her shit. She doesn't let people bully her. She knows what the fuck's going on and she's super, super, super educated. And like the most educated women in America are black women. So we love that. But it just goes to show that, again, when these systems are in place, how much it hurts everyone involved. Like, if we would have not had the misogyny and the racism that we did, Kamala would have been, you know, sworn into office and we probably wouldn't have had nearly any of this shit going on.
Fucking Dumpy wouldn't be over here shitting his pants in the Oval Office in front of national television.
We got a Nazi in the fucking White House. We have Nazis running our government. We have ICE in the streets, which are literal Nazis. Like, it's, this is what happens when we elect people that uphold the patriarchy and uphold white supremacy. And again, everyone's fucked over. Everyone's
fucked over. And on that, it's not just women. It's not just people of color. It's men that also get fucked over by the patriarchy too. As a man, one of the things that I grew up with is this notion that men don't cry and men don't show their emotions. So what does that lead to? It leads to you holding it all in and repressing your emotions and becoming less emotional. But that doesn't just fade away. It doesn't just get locked up in a little black box and get buried. That black box grows legs and then comes back with a fucking vengeance. And it's shown in people that usually go into ICE right now. The biggest demonstration of those people are ICE agents. The people that have repressed their feelings and are now taking it out on women, children, people of color, people of the same skin color as them too. It's insane. Holding that in, aggressive outbursts, physical violence, just wanting the chance to hurt the people that hurt them. And the people that hurt them are their fellow men. Like, think of the fathers that beat their kids. Think of the fathers that are the household kings, right? And they rule their house with an iron fist. They're over here beating women, the wives, the kids. Nobody's safe. And then you get people that end up coming into, you know, a position of power after being hurt like that and abusing the shit out of that power just to get some kind of justification for their actions or something. It's really just a disgusting feedback loop. And it comes back to the fact that men are given positions of power without earning it. Just being given it and them acting however the fuck they want. Like, especially in like, I'm certain like the 70s, I see especially a lot of like medial portrayals of men back then that are just disgusting, like hateful. They put on this great face in the face of the public and behind closed doors, they are as rotten as a worm infested apple, dude. There's nothing in there.
No, honestly, and I'm glad you bring that up because I feel like I've learned, like, you know, how many times is what's behind the curtain of some of these men in positions of power. And it's like, when you rise to a position like that, there's some sort of, like Sam said, like unresolved issues going on that's going to come out. And 9 times out of 10, these powerful men are literally the most heinous men you've ever fucking even come into contact, like horrendous human beings. And yeah, like Sam said, like for instance, women couldn't get a bank account without a male cosigner until 1974. So when you think about how many women were stuck, because people love to bring the, oh my God, back then women didn't have to work, blah, 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 blah. No, it was the fact that women couldn't work.
Could not work.
And they couldn't have a bank account, which is like what people are wanting it to fucking go back to, which is crazy as fuck. And it's like, what do you think is going to happen when they're stuck in that cycle of abuse? So
nothing's for free.
No, literally. Nothing's for free.
You don't want to work? Well, then you're going to have to deal with the consequences of a world where women do not work, and that world does not look good.
No, literally, it strips you of your power, your humanity, your autonomy. And so when people say things like that, it's like, that's not all it's chalked up to be. And that's why some people are talking about women getting jewelry. And that was the only form of money, of like a safeguard that women had, was getting jewelry, because if they wanted to run away, they could take all their jewelry and sell it. You know what I mean? So just, for instance, things like that. But then when we look at, I'm trying to think of how to describe it. Just in that, I'm like, okay, so basically, when women were in these roles and stuff, they eventually got sick of it, obviously. So then they were like, okay, again, we've always fought back against tyranny. We've always fought back against fascism. It's happened for literally ever. And so then around the 70s, women started being like, honestly, it was before then. So it was before Roe v. Wade, women started kind of being like, okay, fuck this shit. Like, we need to, have more power. So they started going into the workforce. So with this, they would be things like secretaries or whatever. And that's where the whole term work wife came to be, was the men at the office would treat the women in the office like their wives. Like, they would have to get them coffee. They would basically be a wife at work, and then they would go home and then have a wife at home. And so it was just basically more of women taking care of men. And at this point, they didn't even have a word for like sexual harassment or anything like that. So what these women endured in these offices, because of, again, we're in a patriarchal society, was abuse. And so then that created a movement called 9 to 5. Which that's where that came to be.
Thank you, Dolly Parton.
Yes, no, literally. So 9 to 5 was started by these women that were like, no, we want to be able to go to work, earn our paycheck, not have to deal with all this bullshit that comes along with it. Like, the men don't have to deal with that. Why do we? So they started 9 to 5. So then Jane Fonda, who was, she's very involved in activism, literally love her, like have her, painting in my, on my stairs or whatever. And so she then, her and Lily Tomlin started finding out about this movement 9 to 5. And so they started going to protests and, learning about them. And they're like, we need to create a movie about what's going on. And so they knew that it's like the movie had to be like funny and like had to bring people in, but it had a lot of these like hidden kind of messages in it. And so then obviously Jane Fonda used her star power, got Dolly Parton to write 9 to 5. So that's where that song came to be. And so, yeah, like when you look at it, it created this whole entire movement. It created more
momentum behind the act.
Yeah, and like showed more people what was going on. It created a movie. It created a song that people know about. Like, I mean, everyone knows the song 9 to 5.
You can do that.
Yeah, no, literally. So it's like, look at how many jobs that created. So it's like women really do, uplift the economy. They do have really good ideas. And it's like, we're the ones that are kind of pushing the pendulum forward constantly. And again, the people that are the women at the forefront are Black women. So we need to give them their flowers because they're kind of the beginning of this movement. But yeah, I just think the more we learn about women, the more we talk about things, the more we really kind of dig down and like, for instance, like say I'm talking about the patriarchy and, kind of trying to really
bring light to it.
Bring light to it. Yeah, like I think more men need to do that. And there's so many rooms that I'm not going to be allowed in because I'm a woman. So it's like men need to also be allies, because the only way that we're going to move away from patriarchy is if men start putting in their effort and trying to change it, because it's like the oppressed people have fought for so long against the oppressors, but it's like until the oppressors are like, hey, actually, you know what? We need to also undo this system, because they're the ones actively benefiting. Same thing with white supremacy. The oppressors, which I obviously am a woman and I experience misogyny, but I am a white woman. So my community has upheld white supremacy. So that's why I like to talk about what I talk about, because it's like, as a white woman and a woman, obviously, I want to tear down those power structures that don't help anyone in the community. Because again, white supremacy also negatively affects everyone, including white people. And I wish they would get that. But yeah, it's like we kind of got to deconstruct all that stuff.
Two things. One, there was before I hopped off, there was a TikTok that I watched that was this woman talking about how when you stand up as a white woman against the bullshit that's happening right now, basically standing up against ICE and standing up against the white supremacist, you lose your white card.
Yeah.
In a way, you lose it. You become like you get treated like colored people. And
people of color, yeah.
And a lot of white women, or a lot of white people in general, it's not just white women, a lot of white people in general don't want to lose it and lose the privileges that come along with it by being treated a certain way by the majority. But if you're going to stand in front of and to protect somebody that is less fortunate than you, yes, you are going to have to take that risk.
Well, yeah. And I mean, we looked at it with Renee Good. Like, honestly, people are like, oh, well, she's a white woman. So it's like, aren't people going to care about that? But it's like, realistically, she was gay. So it's like, they don't give a fuck about a gay lady, honestly, regardless of whatever. And again, she was a woman, but yeah, she was a white woman. And I'm sure white people think, okay, well, if I stand up, like, I'm not going to get whatever. But it just goes to show again that no, once you're on the side of the oppressed, and once you're on the side of, like, on the opposite side of white supremacy, you're also going to not benefit again from white supremacy. Once you kind of denounce that, it's like, yeah, you're not going to get the same treatment as people that want to uphold white supremacy. So yeah, you do get your privilege revoked, but it's like, until everyone is on the side of, like, it doesn't matter, no one should be treated like this, like, we're not really going to get anywhere. So it's like, more white people who are the oppressor need to dismantle that system, because it's like, the oppressed have been trying to do that forever. And it's like, until we confront the demons of white people, and that's why I'm so whatever about being white and talking about this, because it's like, someone's got to stop the cycle at this point. Like, I want to be the one to stop the cycle, at least in my lineage, of all this white supremacy bullshit.
And me as a man too, like, it also works the same way for a male. When a male starts standing up for women's rights, then they start getting called pussy and all these other derogatory words that denounce and demean men as well. I've never been somebody that, like, took a root in masculinity, I guess, and, like, started being one of those, like, male masculine figures.
Yeah.
Even when I was in the military, like, I just did my thing. I stayed in my own lane, and oh my God, some of the shit that is said in the military is absolutely fucking disgusting, and that's why I didn't last that long.
Yeah.
Dude. It was so foul. And
that's like
just,
the center of what, like,
grossness.
Patriarchy.
I agree. Don't get me wrong. There were women that I worked with, women that were in my group and my working group. There were women that lived in the same building as me. Obviously, for reasons, they had to be separated.
Yeah.
Smart move, military. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
But that didn't stop them. And I very much, like, applaud that despite everything, they still even managed to get into the military.
Yeah.
It's sad that the military culture also still, like, took root in them. I saw in a weird, like, masculine.
Hello. Oh my God, no, it's 6. Woo. Yeah, usually when we'd have these issues, Sam was like behind the screen doing it, but now he's in front of the screen, but he also has to be behind the screen, so this might happen.
It's okay, you know. It's one thing to start and then pretend like these things don't happen, which is not realistic.
No. We're having a hard time before it being logged on, honestly.
Yeah, but you know what? It's okay because for those of you that are aspirational and also wish to have a podcast, know that these things do happen and you don't have to necessarily feel bad for them. You just have to do better and do what you can to fix the problem. And in everything, you know, like going back to patriarchy too, we know that these awful things have happened with males running shit, and we see that that is a bad idea. We also see that women bring a lot of things to the table that is all inclusive, that, you know, prioritizes empathy and making sure that people feel heard. We've messed up. Same way that just happened.
Yeah.
Now we have to do what we can, is everybody, you know, to prevent that from happening again and going backwards. Unfortunately, it is like a tower moment.
Yeah.
Where we're seeing that happen right now. We're going backwards. And yeah, maybe shit's going to be bad for a little bit. Honestly, it's really shitty because that's something that we have to like accept. Yeah. But I am a strong believer that it's going to be okay in the end, because we're not, as a species, yeah, we may be less than our full potential, but we still have a lot of potential, I think. You know, we still have people and generations like the millennials that really made movement and waves in the face of like tyranny and patriarchy and white supremacy. People like me, and that was another thing that I was going to mention, is people that were like me that was raised primarily by women.
Yeah.
Who have more empathy, you know, also go on to start a podcast with my friend.
No, yeah, and I want to bring that up because I feel like there's not a lot of men that I would hang out with one-on-one, you know what I mean, as a friendship. But it's like, when I look at our friendship, it's like it started with, you know, us talking about like music stuff, and then it was like, then I wanted to start a podcast, and you know, we started that with Kylie, and it's like, loved that, and now we're doing our podcast, and it's like, if it wasn't for all that, like, you know what I mean? All this time we've built a friendship, but it's like Sam has never made me feel awkward or uncomfortable, or, you know what I mean? He really stays in his lane. And, you know, we were kind of talking about this of, you know, a previous friend, of just how as a woman, it kind of sucks because you could think you have a really good guy friend, but then it just turns around and it's like, oh, well, they just wanted to fuck me the whole time. And it like actually wasn't a friendship. And so it's like, it's refreshing to see that it's like, at least there's one man that I know out there that wants to be just a homie, and we're friends and we can coexist. And you know what I mean? That's really cool to me. So that's why it's like, dude. Yeah, dude, I'm glad we're doing this podcast. And I do like to hear, you know, because like we said, patriarchy affects everyone. And so obviously as a woman, I know how the patriarchy affects me. And all that stuff. But then it's also like, yeah, as a man, I think more men need to talk about how the patriarchy negative affects them. And then again, like, as a woman, misogynistic men are not going to listen to what I have to say. They're not going to take into account what I have to say and think it's important. Like Sam was saying, like, just how women are less in these roles. Like, there was this study that basically when women spoke like a really, really, really small amount of time, like I want to say it was like, don't quote me on the numbers, but it was like 19% of the time or something in this class structure, men thought that they spoke evenly in this class. And when a woman spoke, I want to say it was like 33%, 40%, something like that. Men thought that they spoke way more than the men in the class. And so it just goes to show, like Sam said, when women show up and are assertive, or they're dominant in a situation, or they, you know, come with a confidence, because most of the time women are not going to show up with a unfound confidence of something they can't do. the same rate as men will show up with something they don't know how to do and then just kind of wing it and stuff. And so it just shows, though, that men still in this society think, even when women aren't talking half the time, it's still considered too much. So it's like, I think that's kind of where we're still at as a society. But the more we have these conversations with our friends or family members, you know, like there's times me and Sam have had conversations and I'm like, oh no, Sam, like, honestly, I don't think so. And I will say he always takes my opinions very seriously and he listens to what I have to say.
It's because that's the matriarchal side of what I grew up learning, is you got to allow space for both parties to talk and be heard. And I 100% got that from women.
Yeah.
I did not get that from men. What I got from men is cutting you off mid-sentence just to make yourself seem bigger and louder and more intelligent. Fuck all that. Fuck all that to hell.
Yeah.
Dude, no, I 100% give you space to talk whenever we have like debates or conversations and where our opinions differ, because your opinion is not wrong. It's not wrong. Like, and that's something that I feel like a lot of people just jump to the conclusion of like, oh, you're wrong. No, you're not wrong. You have lived your whole life. I have lived my whole life. You've lived your life differently than mine. We're two completely different people. Just because you have a different opinion than me does not mean that your opinion is wrong.
Yeah.
It's your opinion, you know, and you have the reasons for having that opinion.
Yeah.
And I can't say that that's wrong. That's stupid.
No, and honestly, I'm glad you brought that up because I think a lot of people think like, well, if it's not happening to me, it's not happening at all. But it's like, yeah, our lived experiences are very different. Like growing up as a woman in a situation where it's like I, for instance, have a lot of really, really bad anxiety. I feel like I mask a lot in situations and just how I was treated. Because honestly, like I'm pretty bossy. I will say that. But I always come at it with like, I'll be the first to be like, honestly, I don't know how to do that. Like if I don't know how to do something, I'm going to let someone know. But more often than not, if I do know how to do it, like honestly, I'll be bossy and assertive. And growing up, it's like, yeah, that was seen as like, oh my God, she's so bossy. She's so whatever. And it was seen as a negative thing. But honestly, it was like, I made really good grades. I knew what I was talking about. I would not only show up for myself, but for my peers. A lot of the time in these group projects, I would be kind of the one facilitating it. So it's like, yeah, I don't think that was a bad trait.
You took on a masculine trait and you got criticized for it.
Yeah. No, going back to what you said about
literally, that's not a bad thing. That's what men are kind of expected to do, is to like take charge of a situation and start giving orders. But once a woman starts doing it, then they're criticized. They're called bossy. Yep. It's such a double standard. Yeah. It's so fucked.
Yeah. And it's like, honestly, like realistically, it's like, not to toot my own horn, but like our whole podcast stuff, like if it wasn't for me being so gung-ho on like, I want to start this and I want to make this happen, like we probably wouldn't have been here. And dude, I was like relentless with texting Sam about it.
It's inspirational, actually, to see somebody want something so badly, you know? Like I kind of went through something earlier today when I was telling a friend of mine at work, like, hey, look, I'm starting this new thing. They were like, oh my God, you're starting a new thing, dude, what the heck? And I'm like, let me finish. And then I finished, and then he was like, oh, I see. But people jump to conclusions like so quick. But I never stopped. You never stopped.
Yeah.
And just because people are like, oh, you're a fool for continuing to try and pursue this thing, even though you failed in the past, you've only failed if you stop trying.
Right. And honestly, that's so true. Because it's like, I mean, again, like, who knows if you even have a watcher right now? Like, I don't know. But it's like we're starting the journey. If we do, hello. But it's like we started the journey because it's like we're passionate about this. We're upset about what's going on. And it's like we want to talk about it. And hopefully, like, even if it just, you know, like I said, inspires to change it, even if it inspires one person and changes one person's mind, to me, that's enough.
And it did, because during Fires of Change, I did my first protest.
Oh my God, yes!
And I got that 100% from Peyton and Kylie.
Oh my God,
mainly Peyton, because you in the past, I know, have represented and showed up at protests
Yeah.
and made your voice feel heard. And that inspired me to get out there and start doing that same thing. So shout out, Peyton. Thank you.
Woo.
And I love it too, dude.
Yeah.
Like being out there in the protests, even especially like the peaceful ones that are truly peaceful. Like that was such a
it's like a cathartic experience,
yes,
honestly.
Absolutely.
Because it's just feeling that collective energy of we all feel the weight of what's going on.
Hey, we got a chatter.
We have a chatter.
Hey, I see that hand. Thank you so much, whoever you are. I'm going to check you out on my phone right now because I'm blind as a bat and I can't read the screen. But thank you so much for being here.
But yeah, no, I think like people get protests wrong. Obviously, we know because of media and propaganda towards media and stuff like that. But like we talk about, our First Amendment right is to protest.
Mm-hmm.
And when you do go to these protests, like you see so many people there that are like picking up trash, handing out food, handing out water. And just, yeah, it's a really nice experience. You see old, young. I literally saw at one of the protests I went to last year, it was the one for, I think it was the first one maybe for ICE and kind of what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
But I saw a little baby there, and he was so cute. He had a little sign.
I did too. When I went to mine for No King's Day too, I saw little tiny toddlers.
Yeah, because it's like when you're at
people.
when you're at the Capitol, honestly, like it's pretty chill. Like it's again not what people think it is.
Mm-mm.
Once the sun sets and that happens, it does change into a different world because then it's like there's not as much
protection. There's not enough light for people to see things.
So then you do get targeted more there. So if you do go to a protest, just be aware of that and stuff.
Yeah.
That's when shit kind of more pops off and gets kind of scary. But yeah, I literally saw, so the baby I saw at the protest, literally a video went viral on TikTok and the little baby was in the fucking video and I was like, oh my God, I was literally right there.
Wow.
But yeah, that was kind of cool. No,
that's
literally.
Crazy.
But yeah, so that's when it's cool to see how many people show up and are, actively trying to fight back against what's going on. And again, we're here because of the patriarchy.
Absolutely. Fuck the patriarchy. Down with the patriarchy.
Yeah.
Hex the patriarchy.
Hex the patriarchy.
And on that note, we've been going for an hour and 10 minutes. Can you believe it? That's crazy.
Our
Look at us.
episode. Really good.
So we're gonna just kind of transition out. Thank you all so much for tuning in, especially you, Wildflower. I see you out there.
Thank you.
And Peyton,
we'll be our next podcast will be in about 2 weeks, and then we'll be on Twitch on every other Thursday, and then the following Friday is when it gets released on YouTube and Spotify, I believe.
YouTube and Spotify, those are the two main platforms that we were on at Uncontrolled Population, keeping it simple. So this episode will be posted next Friday.
Yep.
In February.
Yep. So I'm Peyton.
I'm Sam, and this has been Uncontrolled Population.
Woo, thank you.